How are you, Shanae? Anushka, how are you guys? Right, let's go. Oh, that's wonderful news. And I hope the assignment is going well. Yes, I'm very, very good. Thanks, Shanae. I'm good. Thank you. Right. So to start, and please note this is 2023, and there's a deliberate thing around 2023. We'll chat about 2024 5 in a second. What do those companies have in common? What do those companies have in common?
They all use innovation.
Lots of innovation. I mean, is that what you're saying? Significant levels of innovation, the kind of things they produce and how they push the edge of what we believe to be current technology is scary. It's an interesting one, Vijeshna. Yeah, I would assume a lot of them have online stores. Absolutely. Understanding the need for that kind of link, and they are wealthy. If you look at the value of those brands, and there is a belief, and I think we might have gone past it, but I'll get to it in a second, that we will have our first trillion-dollar company soon, multi-trillion-dollar company soon. If we then look at those and we move to the current picture, have a glance at those. Okay. And just the value that these have, 753 billion. In terms of this, I don't know whether it's going to give me all the detail I require. Apple, yeah, there's the belief will be the first trillion-dollar company. And you can see some of those brands. Now, here it is about the most valuable brands in the world at this point. And you can see this is a wonderful depiction of these. I'm a little bit worried about using Forbes because last time they had indicated that they blocked my video because apparently I had some protected information. So I don't know. Hopefully that is not protected. So if we then have a glance at the slides, the other thing that they have in common is that they have a footprint across the globe. They have a footprint in every single country almost across the globe. Hi, Pretty, how are you? And because they have that footprint across the globe, they're able to offset losses in one country, and because other countries will prosper, and if there's one country that might have a moment where they're in a recession, those losses can be offset against other profits elsewhere. I am very good. I'm a little bit tired, so you'll hear that I'm stumbling over my words a bit. I've been up since 5. Okay, so if we look at what drives what drives these MNEs to and makes it possible for them to have a footprint in every country in the world, that thing is globalization. And I think it's important to remember the thing that drives globalization is always going to be technology and innovation. So when we think of what drives what, technology and advances in technology will drive innovation. Innovation will drive those, and then those advances will drive globalization. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a little bit buggered here. Right, let me just get my head right here. Well, that will drive globalization. How would you define the term globalization? How would you define globalization?
Would you
Guys?
say business that trades across borders?
So the fact is that it allows for the free movement, and that is what allows businesses to trade across borders. So It's the free movement of products, services, skills, and finances. The free movement of products, services, skills, and finances. That is essentially what is the definition when we look at globalization. So the free movement of products, services, skills, and finances. And again, if we look at these businesses, if we didn't have that free movement, they wouldn't be able to have the kind of presence that they have. And I've unfortunately closed the document that it was on. So as I said, technology, but particularly transport technologies, we are able to deliver and get to outlying places far quicker, far more efficiently. And information technology and computer technology, the advances in the internet, the ability to have a shop in Italy somewhere and sell your product globally is definitely part of what the internet has given us and what has caused globalization to happen. So in terms of globalization, I think there are a couple of things that we cannot separate from globalization. The first idea is the homogenization of cultures. So without globalization, we would have had very unique countries. We would have had differences between countries. But what globalization has done, it essentially has created a situation where a teenager in Tokyo wears the same brands, listens to the same music, follows the same trends as a teenager in New York, as a teenager in Sydney, as a teenager in Johannesburg. And other than minor cultural differences, I think there are lots of similarities in terms of, in particular, what becomes a trend. And I think when you're my age, you never know what the trend is. But I tend to ask my students because they will tell you immediately what the current thinking is in terms of certain things. From a technological perspective, global communications, the internet, the ability to connect anywhere in the world is essentially the driver behind our ability to do business globally. And then politics, I think we've seen that it has created forms of interdependence between nations. I think one of the things that we've seen happen in more recent times, which suggests the opposite to globalization, is obviously Brexit, moving away from the EU, Britain. Trump, this make America great again. And I don't know whether that individual actually understands the world, because on one hand, he says America will go it alone. On the other hand, he is working on deals everywhere. And then the Chinese announcing that by 2030, their electronics industry would be completely self-sufficient. So we've seen these kinds of connects. South Africa is obviously part of BRICS and now the extended BRICS. Give me examples of other countries that are part of the extended BRICS. I'm not too worried about the initial BRICS. We know those. Who has been added to the extended BRICS? And it indicates that kind of interdependence. I mean, it's a wonderful example. Now, the EU started it and is possibly the gold standard in terms of, yeah, Iran absolutely is. So if we look at I think it's expanded BRICS, Iran is
So
definitely there. Yeah, go Milani.
would you say Egypt and Ethiopia?
Yeah, there is a whole group of countries. Where is that? Let me see if the AI will give it. This is a very good AI, guys. Obviously not to copy from, but to use in terms of brainstorming. You can see it is a wonderful way of doing it because it also tells you the sources that they've drawn that information from. Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, UAE, in 2025. And certainly we know that Argentina and additional South American countries will be joining. Where is the BRICS expansion? Hopefully I've got something here. But it is an example of the interdependence between different nations. What has also happened, which suggests the opposite of globalization, is that we have a clear division between what we would call the traditional West, so America, UK, EU, Australia, and New Zealand, and BRICS, and a very clear distinction, and the lines are getting more entrenched and are getting more significant. In terms of why organizations go global, the first one, it allows you to make more money, in particular when you've reached saturation, market saturation in your home country. You are able to then sell your product elsewhere. And because you're selling more product, what will happen is that you start benefiting more significantly from economies of scale. So economies of scale obviously is where you reduce the per unit cost of an item because you manufacture more. And because you're a global company, you can almost reduce the cost of manufacturing down to nothing. And it's about more resources. It allows you to draw resources from countries that are more efficient than yours at delivering those resources. It's almost that countries, in terms of globalization, have their own core competencies. Now, in last year with Kim, you would have learned about core competencies. Here, we see countries, and it becomes a situation where you design in Germany, where you build in China, and you market in America. So countries become known for certain core competencies. It's sometimes very difficult to identify South Africa's core competency. What would you say South Africa's role in the world is? What is South Africa's place and role and competency in the world? You don't have to type, guys, just unmute yourself and talk. While Anuska is typing, the one thing that we've seen happen is that South Africa is becoming an outsourced nation in terms of uh, call centers. And I say this reluctantly because my biggest fear always is that you end up working for a call center. And a lot of graduates do and resent every moment that they're in the call center. Can I just see, has anyone here ever worked for a call center? And you remember, these call centers, because of the time difference, generally will look after the UK and also serve the EU. Anyone ever work in a call center? Want to share their experiences? Anuska, you still typing? Just say what you want to say, Anuska.
I wanted to say that we make other countries laugh, sir, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to put that in the
Just
chat.
say that again.
I wanted to say we're there to make other people laugh, but I didn't want to put that in the
Well, somebody's got to provide humor, but I also think that's true. But we struggle against Trump because I think he's a comedian's dream. I mean, he is this comedian's absolute dream. But yeah, we tend to make a fool of ourselves quite regularly. The other option for South Africa, and it's an interesting aside, is where we consider ourselves a gateway into Africa. So we adopt a business model that the UAE has, that United Arab Emirates has. They are nothing other than a gateway into the Arab nations, which means you need great banks, you need great hospitality, hotels, etc. You need really good transport, and you need to make sure that you look after those people that use you as the gateway. We've seen already that Hisense and Samsung have settled in South Africa, and they use us as a springboard into Africa. What we have now is not working for us. We have the sad reality and the sad record that we have the highest unemployment rate in the world. and we've got to find a new business model. Outsourcing for call centers cannot be our business model. They'll never employ enough people. And I still believe the gateway economy is the right option. Guys, other benefits, it also allows you to mitigate risks, because if the country you're operating in, your home nation, goes through a recession, you would hope that other countries will not be experiencing the same recession and they would be performing. So you could offset the losses in your country against the host country's profits. And then also the idea of strategic alliances and partnerships. Think of when Walmart arrived in South Africa and the boost potentially that they would have given Massmart, which is macro, and Game, not that Game will survive a lot longer, and Builders Express. I don't think Walmart has made such a big difference. Any comments on that? Has Walmart made a big difference in terms of macro? I think we still see the same nonsense at the same nonsense prices, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a little bit jaded by age. I see Anuska and Vijeshna is typing. Yeah, I'm deeply concerned. I thought a lot more would happen, but it's the same thing, guys. Yeah, it hasn't. But can I also just say, I thought that when Amazon arrived, the world is going to change, or our little world is going to change, and that Takealot would have a real competitor. I think the biggest disappointment in terms of globalization and new countries investing is Amazon. I cannot see the purpose of Amazon South Africa. Anyone bought from Amazon ever in South Africa? I have bought globally, but in South Africa, found something that they were interested in at a price that would have interested them?
I love South African Amazon. I'll be perfectly honest.
I don't
Everything-
get it, Steph. I don't get it. What do you love about it?
Well, okay, look, you have to buy the right things, if that makes sense. So you
Okay.
wait until you find something that you've been looking for and it's on sale. Like, for example, I got a pack of 4 Philips one blade replacement blades for like
Yes.
$200,
And
which
that's
is
normally what, 600?
at least. And it was the proper Philips ones.
Not the ones we get from Takealot nowadays,
Yeah,
because they are
not the
dodgy.
cheaper nasties. And it came the next day. I ordered them at like 6 in the evening. Oh, sorry, that's my cat. And they
don't
were there
worry.
the next morning. That, then also washing machine pods, super cheap, came super quickly. A couple of other random bits. So
Flip, unless I don't know how to search on Amazon. So guys, here is a quick lesson on how to search on Amazon.co.za, I'm assuming. Oh, come on. How stupid are you, Pelser? Okay, Steph, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Okay, so what is here? Okay, so I know the price of these because I recently got some for my birthday. Let's see what is here. Okay, currently unavailable. Yeah, you see. Okay. Okay, Steph, what am I doing wrong? Because I want to see what it is at, 520. I don't know. No, so that's the Technique one. I'm not finding the exact copy. Oh, it is a Technique one. It's cheaper at bloody Macro, man.
all right, it's not everything. And look,
No.
Takealot is still king.
So where do you find your stuff? I think, Steph, you need to do a video for us. So you'd say it's this kind of stuff that your browsing, oh my gosh, please don't show people my browsing history.
Oh, they
Because
watch
there'd be
everything.
brides from Russia then. I'm going to be recorded and reported for that one. Is that a good price? I don't know. I normally buy this when it's on special. Maybe I need, Steph, you need to do a training video for us. But I don't think they brought anything extra. I think it's the same old ho-hum stuff. I don't see anything extra. Maybe I'm just fed up with oh, these are, oh my gosh. Oh gosh, they're going to show you my browsing history again.
It's nothing revolutionary or
Yeah.
exciting, but it is nice when you find something you've been looking for.
Yeah, I think maybe I need to spend a bit of time, but also I've become so jaded with Takealot and some of the dodgy stuff that they sell now, the supposed branded stuff that is not branded. They've become really questionable. Okay, and also initially Amazon didn't deliver to Pietermaritzburg, which was very irritating. That they thought we weren't significant enough. We're the capital of KwaZulu-Natal nogal. Sorry, I'm having my private moment. Okay, guys, yeah, this is one of the sort of questions they love to ask, the process of internationalization. So often businesses will start locally. In terms of businesses starting locally, often we will have businesses that are city-based, that are region and province-based, and the expansion normally is when you've reached maximum market share and saturation in the market in your own country, in the home country, then you would generally start exporting. In terms of exporting, normally to a limited number of other countries who have similar needs and values and where our products would make sense. And then you become multinational and you start setting up foreign sales people in other countries, and you start making 30% of your income from overseas, and you can see the difference. Transnational is where you are a Google, where you have a footprint in every single country possible. And that certainly is when you make big money. The one thing we need to remember, this is the generic process, but we also see businesses that are born globally, and I'm sure we've discussed this already. So Spotify, born globally. Yeah, Netflix, not really, because Netflix was a video delivery service. But we've seen those kind of TikTok organizations being born global. So going past all that nonsense and starting at a transnational level. And it's often driven by technology and the internet. So in terms of the modes of international expansion, we talk about the sheltered industries. These are generally going to be industries that won't be impacted by internationalization. Hairdressers, although we see now that we've got some form of franchising in terms of hairdressers. My hairdresser is a one-person business. She's on her own. She doesn't have anyone else other than a shampoo lady working for her. She's not going to be impacted by internationalization. I know that there are a couple of these I'm going to call franchise hairdressers that exist in most of our major cities. Anyone aware of any of those? I know Terenzo is one of them. Okay.
Sorbet now has a hair.
Yeah,
salon
Sorbet is a nice
component.
franchise one as well. Yeah. Who goes to the same hairdresser every time? I do as well. Honestly, when you have perfection, you don't mess with perfection. Also very humble, guys, clearly in terms of my hair. And then, yeah, trading industries. Generally, it's about exporting directly to end users. You don't really have middlemen. And then global industries, guys. These are those that you compete on the global stage. And we know that when we just think of smart technologies, the fight between Samsung and Apple, one of those global industries. Who are the Apple users on the call? Flash your hands if you're an Apple user. One Apple user. Two, three, okay, four. Or did you now go have to check your phone because you're so slow in answering? Didn't So we have a few people. Okay, put your hands down. Samsung users. How's it, Keegan? How are you, boy? Two Samsung users, or are you now going to check what you have? Vijeshna. Sorry, guys, I'm also a Samsung user. Oh, guys, I'm already in trouble for my earlier statements. No, it went fine, boy. It went fine. It's fine. I've got to go back for something, but it's not the end of the world. Yeah, thank you, though. Thanks. Guys, so you can see options in terms of taking it a bit further. I think the first one is licensing, where you, after exporting, license a particular entity to distribute your products. Franchising is an extension of licensing. Contract manufacturing is where, and it's often hand in hand with what we call turnkey projects, where you set up a factory in another country and it's turnkey because somebody could simply turn the key and start operating. Sorry, I've got two hands up. Are those legacy hands or are they new hands? Griselda? Nilani?
So I have a question regarding sheltered industries. So you
Yes.
said so do the local hairdressers, what if like the hairdresser is not from South Africa? Would that still count
No,
as a
she's still going
sheltered?
to operate locally. It's about who is impacted, how that person will be impacted. It is unlikely that we will have a global hairdressing consortium that will affect a local hairdresser. I mean, they are sheltered. They're not sheltered from competition within a city, but they're not going to be impacted by globalization as significantly.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, and I think we have I mean, we've got a couple of Pakistani guys that work in barbershops in Pietermaritzburg, and yeah, they don't speak English well, but they don't charge as much as the South Africans do. I mean, maybe that's a generalization, though. Guys, and then service sector outsourcing, essentially here, as we've said in our example earlier, South Africa becoming the outsource center in terms of call centers. And the truth is, guys, and I've had several of my students work at call centers, and people consider those individuals to be slave labor, in particular those that, and most of them serve the UK or the EU, because the exchange rate is so significantly different that South Africans are referred to as slave labor, which is hell of a offensive, but it is the truth. So it's cheap to have call centers in South Africa. If you have the right technology, the time zones don't really affect too many people. Can I just see, has anyone ever worked in a call center? Because so many of my students end up in these damn things. Yeah, I hope that none of you ever have to do this, guys. Oh my gosh, I hope it doesn't happen to you. Guys, and then you can see strategic alliances where you form a partnership, and I know that's not the perfect term. Joint ventures where you set up a different company where two of the people that generally would have been in a strategic alliance previously would own. Mergers, combining, and that's our example from earlier, Walmart, Massmart. coming into the country, obviously taking over Walmart and now owning a significant share in Massmart. Yeah, greenfield subsidiaries where you go in a country and you set up your own manufacturing, and full subsidiary where essentially you buy local firms and you rebrand them into your name. Guys, you can have a glance at these. I'm not going to go through each of these. Just remember the turnkey projects, the one that I mentioned. It is often when manufacturers want to expand into other countries. I have a friend who his company manufactures car components, and they've gone into Africa. And what they would do is they would take their factory setup, their layout, their machinery, their standards, their training, the training that they do for their own employees. They will set up a factory elsewhere. They'll set up the production lines. They'll calibrate the production lines. They'll train people, and they'll hand over the key to the factory to a local individual. And it literally is the turnkey, where everything is in place for you to literally turn the key and everything starts. And I know that it's a little bit of a stretch of a metaphor in terms of the turnkey. Okay, strategic alliances. You can have it's an interesting one, Shanae. It depends on the approach that the company would take to expand. So generally, the employees will be local. In some instances, the management and the employees will be local, but in other instances, managers from the home nation would initially work there and work as expats in those countries. So it depends on the kind of internationalization process that is adopted. Okay. We don't see a lot of examples of employees brought in, but literally managers, and it's often managers because that's where the standard setting happens. The problem that we've seen in terms of taking local managers is that when there are cultural differences, whose cultures do you adopt? How do you treat people in terms of day-to-day managing performance? Because different cultures do things differently. Okay, joint ventures, we've spoken about that. And please look at these, guys. I have explained them. I'm not going to go through to that. Right, and this will answer Shanae's, who asked that question. Shanae, this will answer your question a little bit more. When we expand locally and when we expand internationally and we move away from our home nation, there are always two factors that we have to consider when we get into a new country. We need to consider the first one: how much must we customize? How much must we do in terms of personalizing, customizing our products for local conditions? So the first criterion is the need for local responsiveness. The second criterion is how much pressure is on us to reduce costs. So if you are going to export Lamborghinis, the truth is there's zero pressure on reducing costs. There's also very little pressure in terms of local responsiveness other than left and right-hand drive. So it depends on your product, it depends on your approach, but everything we do in terms of expanding will always consider those two elements, and that will determine the kind of people you employ, how we set up the organization, etc. So if we look at deciding and determining a particular country, there are two criteria that we can use in doing that. And the first one is so-called Porter's Diamond. Anyone seen Porter's Diamond previously? The one thing I need to say, and I found that some of the lecturers don't always even get this right, in particular some of the examiners in the past. The one thing we know about Porter's Diamond is that Porter's Diamond can be used in two ways. It can be used by a country, by a region. Certainly Pinetown used this when they created Marion Hill. They expanded the when they created Marion Hill in terms of the production facilities there. So what you would do is you would say to yourself, in order to attract investment, what criteria do we need to have in place? The other way to use it is by a business. And when a business decides, do we go to country A, B, or C, they can look at the factors in the Porter's Diamond to see which would be the most logical choice, which would give them the greatest benefit. So when we look at Porter's Diamond because it looks like that. So to just go through it. So there are 4 attributes in terms of deciding which particular country, which region we would set up in, or if you're a region trying to attract investment, if you're trying to attract investment, what do we need to have in place to be able to look attractive to potential investors? Sorry, Claudine, what is the question? I might have missed something, Claudine. You don't have to type, just tell me if I've missed something.
No, you asked, has anybody seen Porter's Diamond before? And I said it just in the textbook.
Oh my gosh. You know when somebody's in your class and you think, somebody's going to struggle to pass? I've just had that moment. You want Ali's number to report me? Oh gosh, I've caused it again. I'm going to be fired. Sorry, Claudine. Okay, right. So in terms of factor conditions, so the first part of the diamond, basic factor endowments. And these are important, and these often are natural. These are things that are there in the country already. And again, I don't know, Steph, you're a Natal girl, hey? One of my students lives in Hillcrest. I don't know if it's you.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes,
Is it
it's
you?
me. Yeah.
Okay, so you know Pinetown fairly well, and as those of you that have traveled between Pietermaritzburg and Durban, as you get to the toll gate, traveling from Pietermaritzburg, on your left-hand side, behind the little hill there, behind the mountain, there is a massive, massive industrial park where we have tons and tons of manufacturers. Now, that happened, I would imagine, in the late 80s, mid 80s, at that stage. And what they did is they knew that they had wonderful natural resources there. They knew that they would have no issue in terms of the climate. And what they then did is they did a low-cost housing development if you're driving towards Durban on the right-hand side, because that hadn't existed in the 80s. And they had set up the low-cost housing in order for basic skills to be available. They've also built a bridge across the freeway so that people can get across the freeway to get to work there. It's an interesting ticking the boxes exercise. And I think their entire approach predated a lot of Porter's Diamond. Then your advanced endowments, high-level workforce skills. There are 3 universities, and I'm excluding Varsity College at this point. You have Durban, you have Westville, and you have Pietermaritzburg University of KwaZulu-Natal. You have a bunch of private institutions, including Varsity College. And then knowledge resources, guys. So patents that are registered, etc., money available. What Pinetown did is they built a separate substation to feed that particular industrial area. So, and in addition to that, they did impressive things like give away the land for free, and also pay for connections, whether it's electric and water connections, and then advanced technologies. If you drive through, I interviewed people in that business park for my PhD, and first of all, you get lost because it was pre-Google Maps, but my gosh, it is impressive what is manufactured there. And it's also interesting how in the kind of setup that the factories have there, that what I manufacture is shipped across the road for somebody who will use my components and building whatever they build there. In terms of home demand competition, conditions. So the first one would be the sort of local industry service demands. And that's why Pinetown has been so impressive, because the components I manufacture here is often shipped just down the road to go into something manufactured elsewhere. So you have this almost organic interaction between the local factories in terms of serving and supporting each other. And also, you've got goods and services, and you've got a fairly large nation who will buy items manufactured there. And the kinds of things that are important: innovation, quality improvement, competitiveness. The company that I talk about, and I won't give the name, but they manufacture car components. They have become fully automated. They went from 400 staff to 23, and a production line run by machines. And then related and supporting services, your suppliers, but you also see things like banks, etc. There's schools there. I mean, and there are really good schools there. So it's really set up. So what Pinetown did really well is they became this investment haven. And yes, you gave away everything for free, including land, but you created a tax base, a rates base that really, really benefited Pinetown from a financial perspective. Yeah. And then location advantage, it really is just making sure that we provide these opportunities so that people would come here, because we're making it easier for them to compete. Guys, you can have a glance at that. I'm not going through that. What is the difference between a resource, a capability, and a dynamic capability? Don't write it, just unmute yourself. The difference between a resource, a capability, and a dynamic capability. Don't type, just unmute yourself.
So,
Go, Vijeshna.
Resource capability will be dependent on how much or the quality of resources I take it.
Okay, so it's things we have. It's people we have. It's money we have. It is stuff that we use as inputs. Okay. The
And
capability.
The other question was dynamic.
Okay.
So dynamic, I would think in the current resources that we have in terms of the people and equipment or technology is how best we can use it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So resource is something we have. A capability allows us to maximize what we can get out of our resources. A dynamic capability, it is that one thing that keeps us relevant, that allows us to be relevant, that allows us to update ourselves, that allows us not to be a Nokia or not to be a Kodak or not to be a BlackBerry. It allows us to avoid to go down the route of those three. And also Mr. Video and Blockbuster Video, etc. In terms of the dynamic capabilities required for a global company, you can have a look at those. But the one thing they have in common, it is the fact that they allow an organization to update itself in order to remain relevant. And it's about being light on your feet. It is about anticipating changes in the environment. It is about driving changes in the environment because of your innovations, because of your own inventions. And it is about being agile. And when we talk about agile companies during COVID found another way of making money. Companies that manufactured alcohol, and I'm not going to say the specific company, stopped manufacturing alcohol that you can drink and started using the alcohol and manufacturing hand sanitizer. Down the road from us in Kondeni, a company that manufactured car seat covers, stopped manufacturing car seat covers, was agile enough to repurpose their production line to start manufacturing PPE. And it's that kind of ability that we are required at a higher level. Guys, and then just when we look at evaluating the country as an investment destination, in addition to Porter's Diamond, we have to look at the typical pestle factors. I'm not going to go through the pestle factors. What I am going to say, please take a glance at this. You will be asked this as a question. And the key difference is that here you look at global pestle factors. Okay, you don't look at pestle factors from a local perspective. So you can see the differences. And I just want to spend a bit of time. Now, United Nations, World Trade Organization, all that stuff, you can look that up. But you can see how the pestle changes. Things we are concerned about: nationalizing industries, expropriation, where we take businesses and we hand it over to locals. You can see the stuff that we are concerned about. You know, terrorism, extortion, having to pay, mind you, pay bribes. That's South Africa. Different sets of law that apply. Look at it from an economic perspective as well. Not going to go through those, guys. I think we've seen pestle enough in our existence. I think you saw it the first time when you were in grade 9. And definitely, if you did EMS at school, you would have definitely seen this. Who did EMS at school? So we can divide people who are young versus people who have more kilometers on the clock. Milani, EMS. Anyone else do EMS? Aniska, EMS? Ek weet nie wat dit in Afrikaans is nie. Who else are the youngsters here? Okay, Vajesh, no, well, neither did I. No, not EMS training, silly. It's economic and management studies. Claudine, your kids do EMS. Yeah, my kids did EMS. So you must know where my evolution is at this point in time. So if you're about 30, you would have done EMS. So anyone who has not done EMS is older than 30. Okay, I'm guessing. Okay. Yeah. Okay, sorry, and I just need to spend a bit of time here. Guys, in terms of industry change at a global level, again, you can see the stuff that will affect an industry. When we see internationalization, it allows businesses to look at countries in terms of their core competencies. It allows you to get resources from a company, from a country that is more efficient than yours in terms of your manufacturing and your transformation processes. The second one is it allows you access to technology. The one thing globalization and multinational organizations did for us is they diffused technology. They brought technology to emerging nations. And just also, and I would have told you this previously, but if we look at the top 100 economies globally, 2/3 of those are big business. So it's possible for a company like Apple to buy their own country. Apple's turnover last year was more than our GDP, was more than South Africa's GDP. Put that into your mind and let it sink in. Apple's turnover last year was more than our GDP. Okay, so the 2/3 thing is very, very, very real. Guys, you can also look at gaining technical knowledge. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the kind of reaction we all should have, Steph and Vijeshna. Guys, also changes in policy, changes in societal concerns, and there I click on the wrong one. And you can also see it allows for collaboration. So the cage distance model, it allows us to look at assessing the potential risk, the potential complexity of entering a new international market. And the general rule of thumb, the higher the actual cage distance is, then the greater the challenge is. The criteria that we use is firstly the cultural distance. Now, I'm always amazed at, and this is another thing that I found out today because I lectured honors today. And please tell me, guys, that I'm going to see you in honors next year. Who is going to join me for honors next year online? Okay. This is not good news. I was
So,
hoping.
which
Yeah,
honors
Milani.
which honors degree are you lecturing next
So we
year?
do a B. Yeah, cricket Steph. We are doing a BCom manage. We're doing a management honors. So you do 4 generic modules, but what we do to make our BCom special is when you do your research part, which stretches across the entire year, we allow you to do research in an area where you're looking for a job or where you're looking for promotion in a job. So we personalize ours, allowing you to do research in supply chain. We see a lot of technology. At some point, I would hope to share some of our titles of research for this year because there's some blimmin' impressive titles, okay? But yeah, I'll keep reminding you. So the first bit, okay, no, that's fine, Majeshna. Then I see you the year after. It's not going to escape me. Okay, you won't escape me. Please remember that. Cultural difference or distance. It is how cultures are different to one another. I asked my students, my honor students in Westville today, if they had ever seen the movie Love Actually. Not a single one of them had heard of Love Actually. Not a single one of them had heard of the actor Hugh Grant. You know, when you stand in front of a class and you realize that I am not the right person to be doing this anymore. Who knows the movie Love Actually? Just show of hands. Who has seen Love Actually? Oh my. Steph, well done. Plus 25%, Steph. Oh, 25%, 25%. Aniska, not sounds familiar. Have you seen it? It's a classic. Of course, it's a classic. Who knows who Hugh Grant is? If you've seen Love Actually, you know who Hugh Grant is. Okay, nice. And it's got 25% for you as well. I feel like Oprah today. He was in Heretic recently on Netflix, which I didn't enjoy whatsoever. I thought it was stupid. But in there, there's a lovely scene where he interacts as the prime minister or acting as the prime minister in the UK with the American prime minister and the different value systems that they have. It's a wonderful example. And just look for the scene on YouTube to see how different American and UK cultures are. My son was in America last week and was offered a position, his position in South Africa to do in America. He's now turned it down because he hates America and the Americans. Vajeshna, is your hand a legacy hand? Okay. It's okay. You don't have to share your Tourette's problem with us. We understand, Vajesh. Okay. Something else to report me around, guys. So cultural difference is how the language differences, religious differences, etc. Administrative and political distance, very difficult if you come from a nation that has a free market system and you try and do business in a nation with a mixed economy. Geographic distance, here we look at distances in kilometers, and then economic distance, where you have a developed nation who sell rubbish like we sell rubbish like implants into jewelry implants into your skin, who sell talking headstones and not stuff that will ever sell in South Africa. Okay, guys, I will stop there because the next bit is going to take a lot of time. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Please don't panic over us not finishing everything. We will finish everything. We need to agree a date and time for us to do the exam prep. I spoke about it earlier. Just find out on the group. Guys, can I check when is your first exam? Does anyone know that? Let me stop this recording. 27th of June, 13th of June, okay. Okay, 19th.